Yeah, I'm sure that they would like to know. And what they're going to know is exactly what we tell them, which is today we are coming to you from a completely different location. And we had to take advantage of this grass wall behind us because you really want a grass wall.
I do want one.
And so two things. One, we actually saw a grass wall at Stock and Trade when we went to go visit Mary, but they were like $400 a piece
for those little things.
So this is $1,200 behind us. If you were to get it from there, probably could get it cheaper from IKEA or get it cheaper from Amazon, but get it even cheaper from a green screen. Which, if we did a studio in the apartment, the green screen would make the most sense because it would take up the least amount of space.
Yes, true.
And then be able to provide that. But odds are, when we do eventually move, you will create a studio.
Yes.
Because you're a studio person.
Yes.
You're a studio person.
Yes.
And I am anywhere I can be that's not the same place all the time person.
Now, when I record in my Jeep, that's how I am. When I have random conversations from the Jeep, I like to be with different background behind me, so you can always have something to look at, right? But most of the time, yes, I do like being studio bound because I like to show my own things and I like to be able to move around and talk with my hands and whatnot.
So I have to assume that when you do the video explaining why there are so many ducks on the dashboard of Jeeps, you'll be in the Jeep.
Yes, that would make the most sense. Or the outside of it to show you kind of how it all works.
Any modifications on the list for the Jeep besides actually taking parts off, like taking the doors and the roof off, which we haven't done? And it sounds good in theory, but it's actually kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
When it rains.
Yeah.
Or you have to transport anything that's not.
So here's the thing. I love my Jeep and the fact that I can open that little front top part and put all the windows down. But I would really, really like to use it sometime with that Overlander thing on it or whatever it's called.
That's the other thing. So we're sitting here trying to find this Thule roof rack. And obviously...
It sounds like you have a Mike Tyson list when you say that. Thule.
Thule or Thule. I'm not sure if it's Thule or Thule, but it would get fitted to the Porsche Macan GTS, which is our travel car, basically. Which we just drove it again here to Atlanta, where we are currently. And I was thinking, well, all we'd have to do is buy another set of bars to put on the Jeep, and then we could just alternate the roof boxes back and forth. But
then I couldn't do
if you don't have the top on the Jeep, then it's pointless.
Yeah, and if I have the soft top and you put the bars on, I can't open the soft top part.
Yeah. So first world problems.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, it's been hot as balls lately, so I don't want to open the top part anyway.
Would you rather have hot as balls in Destin, where we had limited traffic and just an overall more enjoyable life?
Yes.
When driving?
Yes.
In comparison to not as hot as balls, but what we experienced so far driving down State Bridge. No. What we saw on 400 is a parking lot. No. And it's a Wednesday.
No.
People do this every day. Yeah. We left Florida at
6:30 a.m.
6:30 a.m. Central to hurry up and get to Atlanta, beat traffic, get checked in here at the Avalon Hotel, and also beat this afternoon traffic. I didn't want to get stuck sitting through Atlanta traffic and then not getting checked in until like 8. Yeah. And missing out on the ability to take advantage of our surroundings.
Yes.
So
I would pick hot as balls and little traffic versus this.
But so far,
it hasn't been bad.
It's still better than Tampa.
Oh God, yes.
It's still better than Tampa. People in Tampa, I don't know what their deal is when it comes to driving, but that's not their thing. No. Reminder, this is going to be on the SquirrelTribe and Kevin, the podcast. So make sure you go check that out. And if you want to listen to these videos or these conversations, they are available on YouTube Music.
Do you know what I realized? I pulled up the video, the last one you put on the podcast. I pulled it up on YouTube, and it immediately gave me this little box of, would you like to listen to this as a podcast? So I could have clicked yes.
On YouTube?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Without even going to YouTube Music.
Yes.
Got it.
It was really neat.
So, heads up, we are in Atlanta. We are at the Avalon Hotel, a hotel that we have seen often
Numerous times.
You'd you'd always say, "Man, we should stay there one time." And because even when we lived in Atlanta, we would still stay at different hotels for date night.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are.
Sometimes it's just more fun to take it someplace new. I'm just saying.
Mess up somebody else's bedroom. But interestingly enough, you go to check in. Very simple, fast, quick, and easy process.
Super
But
simple.
you were greeted with a surprise.
Yes.
They said SquirrelTribe.
No, they did not say SquirrelTribe.
Oh, no, it said SquirrelTribe 2.0.
No, they did not. SquirrelTribe Live. No. Kevin's wife? No. I went to check in, and the girl at the counter was like, have you stayed with us before? And I said, no, it's our first time staying here. And I explained that we used to live here.
Was
We'd
this
come
before
shopping
or
over
after
here.
she knew you had a Marriott number?
After.
Okay, so you got a Marriott Rewards number.
Yeah, I have a Marriott Rewards number. No. Yes, it was after. So
that might have played
helped.
A part in it.
But I told her, I was like, this is our first time staying here. We've seen it numerous times, and I've always wanted to stay here. But then we moved, but now we're back visiting, and we figured, why not grab the bull by the bull parts, and unless they turn him into a cow. Is that what happens if you take it off of a bull that's just a regular cow?
I thought you were going to say if the bull identified as a cow or something.
One of those two. Anyway, and I was like, no, this is our first time, whatever. And she says, well, I'm upgrading you to the deluxe king suite. And I was like, oh, okay then.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So we have a deluxe king. Mm-hmm. And what we will do is if you guys want to see more of this, then go check out the SquirrelTribe Life link below for that channel, because that's where we'll be putting the vlog and the travel experience, as well as how we were able to do this without paying for it personally. So that will be coming up soon, as well as more of our travels, as we are going to be on the road for a little bit here moving forward. And much like last year, we have no clue where we're going, but eventually we will get there.
Hey, speaking of, my iced matcha latte with strawberry puree and almond milk is really tasty. But there's a Starbucks in this hotel, and there was a kid in front of me in line when I went down there to get mine, and then his chocolate cream cold brew. There was a kid in front of me who I happened to be slightly paying attention. I was on my phone looking at YouTube stuff, obviously, because that's what I do. And I was still kind of listening out the, head on a swivel kind of thing, but listening also. And the kid in front of me ordered something, and I heard the lady at the register say, oh, I'm sorry, we don't take cash here. And my brain, of course, my ears heard that. I said, what? Like, we don't take cash here? And the kid was like, oh, okay. And he just stood there for a second, like he didn't know what to do. But then he went over to his friends and asked them. And so somebody came back and paid for it. But I was about to be like, here, use my points to cover it. Because I was telling him that what sucks is when you're little and you get to go shopping, your parents give you cash. They're not going to give you your credit card when you're like 13 or 14 to go hang out with your friends, because 13 and 14-year-olds, we're going to do dumb things and spend a lot of money, right? So they give you like a 20, and they're like, here, that'll pay for a movie, that'll pay for something to eat, maybe some Starbucks, whatever.
Not all of those.
Not all of those anymore. Inflation is like ridiculous. But you can't even do that anymore. You can't even give your kid cash to go out and shop with their friends.
It actually makes sense, because we're just roughly 2 days away from July 1st. We're roughly 2 days away from July 1st. That's true. And if you know, okay? So anyway, I think that this makes perfect sense besides that, for the simple fact that there used to be an old saying, and that saying is, much like everything else, being phased out. And as we were driving through Atlanta, driving through Gwinnett County, driving through Beaufort, and looking around, we actually walked some properties or drove by some properties to see how things have come along since we've left. And it's interesting to see the progression and where things are today. And I'm very pleased to see how far the exchange has gotten, which is over here off of, by Mall of Georgia on the opposite side of 85. The exchange is moving along, and these neighborhoods that we went through moving along, and it's the new norm. It's the new norm.
When you said progression, I think progression as in a positive thing, but not everything that we saw, in my opinion, was positive. So I would use the word change.
The positive progression that I noticed at the exchange was the fact that they were coming closer to completion.
That's true.
Where I can show you videos from early 22. early 2022 where I walked that site,
Late
and I was questioning whether or not they were going to, what was going to happen
with the labor, with the materials, with absolutely everything.
I mean, you got to think,
that was still when you had to do certain things in order to go to work.
Yes.
And so a lot of contractors were like, then you're not getting your stuff built.
Construction, mid-contract, prices jumped 40 to 50%.
Yeah.
So it's like, that was questionable. I bet you a lot of folks lost their ass in that.
Mm-hmm.
And if they didn't, then ultimately it's going to get passed on to the end user, which is what I told you guys from the beginning. It will be passed on to the end user, the consumer, which ultimately we are seeing today with the prices that we saw today and we heard about today. So if you want to know more about that, then make sure you are checking out all of our channels, because all of this is going to be spread out in a variety of different places depending on where it fits best. But some shocking developments, but this is the new norm. Jobs are going, construction is underway. They're breaking ground on new developments. Like, it's a continuation. We saw the construction happening at Atlantic Station. It's ongoing. Now granted, we do have some properties to walk tomorrow that have been on the market for a while and have seen multiple price reductions, but the market is always right. So this price change, this fluctuation, maybe people are going to start losing their ass now after it's completed versus during the construction.
That's true.
And
what's better, during or after? Like, either way, it sucks.
So during is the contractors, the subcontractors.
Yes.
Okay. After is the general contractor or the developer or the investor or the bank. So it just depends. Okay, it just kind of depends.
It sucks most when it's the homeowner, though.
Well, some of these homeowners are going to lose out because they're going to buy at the wrong time, and they're going to be in too deep. They're going to be upside down, and then also they're going to see a deterioration in their neighborhood based on a lot of changes and a lot of vacancies and a lot of empty houses, like attractive nuisance for squatters and vagrants.
Do you remember that story that I told you about? It was probably about a year ago. Maybe it was a little more than a year ago, about the family that had put the money down, had bought the house, had done everything, picked up their entire life, husband, wife, kids, and moved to the state. All their stuff was in their U-Haul. They get to their brand new house. It's supposed to be theirs. They're supposed to close on it in a couple days. And the builder said, nope. Even though they had their deposit and everything else, they told them no. And they took it from them and put it on the market at like 3 times the cost of what they were originally going to sell it for, because the market then deemed that it could be done. So they just completely screwed this family over. Yeah. That bothers me. I will always remember that. That profit over people is when that started, in my opinion. I mean, it's always been kind of like that, but that story right there really just hit home how much that. And I know you say profits over people, and you're like, well, the contractors had to pay more for materials. This house was done. They did not have to pay more for the materials. They just wanted to make more because the market would allow it.
They were greedy, right?
Yes.
They were greedy. And you want to have an ironclad contract. You want to have these contingencies built in, but at some point you have to have this level of vulnerability where you're in limbo and you have nothing, and you're driving a U-Haul full of furniture, and or you own 2 properties, which a lot of people can't, and you would want to buy the next one and then before you sold the other one, and that's not necessarily always possible. Now, however, I was doing some research about property investing in Belize, and there's a 20% premium in Belize.
What does that mean?
So if you want to buy something already built, it's going to cost you 20% more than if you were to do it yourself. Plain and simple. The
convenience fee.
Exactly.
Like that pre-cut fruit at Publix versus buying a bag of apples and taking it home and cutting it up yourself.
Someone else invested the time, effort, energy, took the risk, and they're charging you 20%.
Okay.
I would pay it. I would pay it depending on the situation so that I know what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Versus, let me throw a lot of money into this other country or into this investment or whatever it may be, only to get 99% of the way through and find out that there's a problem.
Yeah.
And then now I have to fight.
Yeah.
I have to fight.
That's true.
And let's just say the fight you win, but that fight cost you 20% or more. Well, you should have just went ahead and paid it. That's
like people are like, you should buy land and build your own house. The only way I would buy land and build my own house is if I was the construction company that built the house.
Pretty much, yeah. And a lot of builders don't want to turn over the land until they build the house.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. Like that neighborhood we went through today,
Yeah,
they're selling
the different
lots.
lots. Yeah.
But I would be willing to bet that you don't actually own the lot until you close on the house.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, so much that we need to discuss and cover, and this is only the beginning as we continue to scratch the surface and peel back the layers of the onion, because we have a lot of different destinations that we're going to hit in the next few days, few weeks, and it's going to be interesting to see the differences, compare and contrast in other areas outside of Atlanta. But as I was telling you guys earlier about the whole money situation, and we're not taking cash, and July 1 is just 48 hours away. Do you remember the old saying that the check's in the mail? Well, apparently not anymore. And no, I'm not talking about stimulus checks or Social Security checks from the U.S. Treasury either, because they stopped doing that years ago.
You know the Avengers, the guy who plays the Falcon.
Cut the check.
Cut the check.
Cut the check.
Is that Anthony Mackie? Is that his name?
I think so.
Cut the check. After every take that he thought was a really good one, cut the check. So as soon as you said that, I was like, oh my.
But ultimately, we're being told to avoid mailing your checks through the United States Postal Service. Meanwhile, shopping for food and groceries isn't just dangerous to your wallets and to your paychecks and to your credit card balances and savings accounts. And don't get me started on GMOs and the chickens that are being created in labs by scientists either. You did that on the video just the other day.
Yeah.
But Business Insider tells us that there are bomb threats that are demanding ransom payments, and these are a new headache for retailers, including Walmart, Kroger, Whole Foods. This is the one I was trying to get you to find. This is the one. I thought it was Target, but it was this one. And do you remember when we drove through Oregon?
Oh yes, Oregon had one of the
year.
prettiest beaches I've ever seen in my life.
Oh man, it was like
the
black sand.
And because that's where The Goonies was filmed, and The Goonies is one of the best movies ever made.
Hey, you guys!
Yes, truffle shuffle. One of the best movies ever made. I love Shauna.
But last year we went there, full-time van life, family summer vacation trip, 2.5, 3 months in a Class B. But unfortunately, we came across this situation where we needed fuel, and we go to get fuel, and it was a really odd situation that we weren't expecting. But ultimately, they're not going to do that anymore, and unfortunately, that means a lot of people are going to be losing their jobs.
Oh, at that gas station where
it was a grocery store.
It was a grocery store, and it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Fred Meyers. It was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my entire life. You had to sit in line and wait for somebody to come pump your gas for you, unless you had diesel, and then you could pump your own.
Yeah, because
we didn't know.
Because if you drive
diesel,
you're cooler than everybody else.
But we didn't know that, and we're like, why do we and there was like 2 attendants and like lines of people.
No organization.
No structure,
whatsoever. No priority.
And it's not the same as it was back when I was little and I would go to my Nana's in South Carolina, and there was a
and it wasn't for
full
convenience
service.
either.
It wasn't for convenience, and so you wouldn't steal the gas and drive off, I think. I don't know. It didn't make sense why they're doing it, but when I was little, it was literally they come out and one will clean off your windshield, somebody else will put gas, and somebody else would check your tire pressure at the hot spot that I used to go to.
Drive over a little tube and go ding ding.
Yes. That was the best. But this way, it made no sense, and people were getting mad and trying to back up and switch lanes, and then that lady got out of her car.
That's when your grandma, she wore white gloves, and she opened up the purse with the little metal things.
Oh, yes. Well, don't forget, they had like little frills on the wrist, obviously.
I think I actually have a video of that experience from
we do.
The vacation. I never uploaded it. But it says that Oregon's self-serve gas ban has been voted out by lawmakers after decades.
Well, I can understand why. Now, some people are like, no, it's great. When it's cold out, I want to get out. When it's raining, I don't want to get out. When it's hot, I don't want to get out. And it's like, would you rather be inconvenienced from the weather for 3 minutes or sit in line for literally 35 minutes to get fuel? Do you have 35 minutes worth of idle fuel in your tank?
I think New Jersey does it too. So Oregon was done, New Jersey's left, and we may actually end up in Jersey. So
I hope we do.
may find out. We may find out.
I hope we do.
So,
I need to go find that Jersey Shore house because
So, is it going to be like Full House, where when you get there, it doesn't look anything like it?
I don't even know what it looks like. I'm not gonna lie. I watched like 2 episodes of Jersey Shore, and I could feel all my brain cells dying, so I stopped.
Or is it going to be like the Vin Diesel's house in Fast and Furious when we went to go see it?
That
cool.
looked
normal,
like it was supposed to look.
But they were like, do not
and
drive,
the shop
do not
where
get
they
in
had
our
the
driveway.
Tuna sandwiches, best tuna sandwiches.
Oh yeah,
yes.
Tuna on toast.
Tuna on toast.
No edges. So, reminder: just check out the podcast link in the description, as well as other valuable links, free links for you guys. But apparently, we need to avoid mailing these checks with the United States Postal Service. And a surge in crimes targeting the U.S. Postal Service has some experts warning Americans against sending their checks through the mail. The USPS last month cautioned that it has seen an increase in attacks on letter carriers and mail fraud incidents, with 305 mail carriers robbed in the first half of fiscal year 2023, on pace to exceed the previous year's 412 robberies. At the same time, fraudsters are targeting mailboxes, either stealing letters directly from residents' homes or from the blue USPS collection boxes, according to the Postal Service.
Which is crazy because you and I, whenever you have to mail something, we go find the blue box and drop it in and go.
I felt way more comfortable
than putting it in your own house mailbox.
And then you always put it in and close it, open it.
Check a few times, make sure that it's not just accidentally stuck there somewhere. There was actually a mail carrier, I think it was in Chicago, around Christmas time, older gentleman who was shot while being robbed.
That's crazy.
It was a huge deal.
So it says that the rise in crime targeting postal carriers and mailboxes heightens the risk that mail checks could be stolen, as has been documented in recent incidents across the nation. For instance, a rash of thefts from blue collection boxes in Milwaukee led to the breakup last month of a criminal ring. The suspects allegedly used stolen arrow keys, or a universal USPS key that opens mail collection boxes, to pilfer mail, including more than 900 stolen checks.
That makes me think of like people who used to work at Walmart and stuff would try to sell their Walmart vests and shirts to people afterwards so they could walk in.
Well, you got 2 problems here. Number one, this could prevent checks being mailed or payments being delivered to utility companies and credit card companies.
Yeah.
But the other one was someone actually had your driver's license.
Oh, they stole my driver's license.
Out of the mail.
And it ended up where it shouldn't have been.
It ended up 3 counties over.
It ended up with
3 counties over, and then somehow connected to another state?
No, it ended up 3 counties over, and it was found with the credit card of the woman they thought murdered her children.
Ooh.
Set the house on fire, remember? And then
she murdered her dirter?
Murdered her dirter. That's not a funny one, but the SNL thing was funny. But
oh yeah, that's Saturday Night Live.
Yes, that's Saturday Night Live. Please don't get it twisted. But I always hated mailing checks out, because when you're doing something online, it says ask for your accounting number and your routing number. It can be found on the bottom of your check, and it's like all of my information is on my check. Why would I want to put that in the mail to begin with?
Yeah, straight up stole your driver's license out of the mail. And this was at a time where people were getting their stimulus checks stolen out of the mail too. So it says that the theft issues have prompted the United States Postal Service to advise that Americans avoid depositing mail in blue collection boxes or leaving it in their own mailboxes for a carrier to pick up. Instead, the agency is now recommending that patrons come inside their local post office to securely send mail.
Huh. So
now, is this
a push to make people do more things online? Yes.
Or is it a push to make people actually show up to the post office
so that they'll stay in business? But that's not going to keep them in business. What it's going to do is make it less convenient for everybody and lose jobs for the post office. Because then if you're coming into the store or the location, they don't need the carriers anymore. They don't need the blue boxes anymore. It's if you want to pick up your mail, come get it. And if you don't want to, it can sit here until you do. Mailboxes are no longer needed.
Well, much like those neighborhoods we walked today, they got rid of all the mailboxes in front of the houses, and it's just one central mail location.
Yeah.
But maybe this is just another black eye for the U.S. Postal Service, where they previously made headlines because the U.S. Post Office was in trouble. Nearly 680,000 employees were in trouble, and a potential $9.2 billion loss. as well as USPS is $160 billion in debt.
How?
Well, what's going on at the post office?
How? Are they overbuying stamps?
When most people think of the Postal Service, they think of letters from grandma or junk mail, which begs the question, what's going on at the post office? And now, besides junk mail and letters from grandma or the vivid memory of postal employees pressing through harsh weather, cold winter storms, or heavy rain to deliver the mail, the big new concern and warning will start to hit people's bank accounts and wallets, missing payments, incurring fees, and losing money, lots of money. And it hurts us all, really. The taxpayers lose big after House Republicans and Democrats agree on a $57 billion, billion with a B, USPS overhaul.
United States Postal Service.
And during a time when this deep recession triggers intense and insane risks. Corporate bankruptcies this year hit highest levels since 2010. With the USPS, United States Postal Service, will they be next on the list of failed businesses in 2023? Do you think this is an inside job?
Well, yeah. I mean, the United States Postal Service is a government job. It's funded by the government. So if the government needs to recoup some money, the best way to do it is to stop letting one of their little branches bleed money. And if they're saying the Postal Service is that far in debt or whatever, cut it off at the knees, call it done. You know what I mean?
Do you think if they get busted, they'll be like, Newman?
Newman.
Well, seriously, why is mail theft on the rise? In an email to CBS Money Watch, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service said mail theft is increasing as part of a broader national trend of increased crime patterns. The U.S. Postal Inspection Service reported roughly 300,000 complaints about mail theft in 2021, more than double the prior year's total, and in some cases, criminals are attacking mail carriers and stealing their deliveries. In others, fraudsters are using arrow keys to gain access to postal boxes to take letters, checks, and other valuables. A 2020 report from the Postal Service's Office of Inspector General found that the agency didn't know how many arrow keys were in circulation or how many had been stolen, raising concerns about the security of collection boxes.
I mean, you got to think about it. When you're an employee and you leave willingly, you generally hand in all your stuff, unless you're there for nefarious reasons to begin with. If you're an employee who has been fired and you are disgruntled, you may find a reason to get back at somebody, or if you need to ensure that you still make money, you may find ways to do it that don't involve you going into a store and taking things, but just going into a blue United States Postal Service box in the middle of the night where nobody can see you and taking everything else.
Or you could just be one of those people who just misplace things all the time.
Or there's that.
Like, I work with a guy, and you would think that he did these things on purpose. He was just a clumsy person, forgetful. And, you know, he could lose a set of keys like nobody's business. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it seems like a real state of emergency. I mean, what could actually happen if your check was stolen? Thieves use a technique called check washing to scam you out of your money. And that involves using chemicals that erase your writing on the check, such as the name of the recipient and the amount of the check. And then once the payment is blank, they can fill in new information, including the amount. In one case, a man mailed a $42 check to pay a phone bill and was shocked when it was cash for $7,000 paid out to someone he'd never heard of. And in another case, nearly 60 individuals last year were arrested in Southern California on charges of committing more than $5 million in check fraud against 750 people. And I can only imagine if you wrote that check and it cashed out of Chase Bank, they would probably deny any claim, given how they treated those who had their money stolen out of the ATMs on camera through that tap to access their account feature, that they were getting money taken out of their account. So if you got a check that you signed, game over.
I remember when we get stuff done at the house, and with like somebody would come over and fix something or whatever, and they'd say, "How do you want to pay? You want to give me a check?" And I'd say, "Nope, I'm going to give you cash, and you're going to handwrite me a receipt."
Or I'll give you a credit card. Or you could do a little credit card with the little square.
Sometimes
and they'd be like, well, that's a 3% fee. We're like, Safe,
Yeah.
better
Safer.
safe than sorry.
Yeah.
But also, there's another way that you can make payments by check using a credit card. And it's really cool, especially when you need to use a credit card in a pinch and you don't have the cash in a checking account to make the payment. There are credit card companies out there that actually offer that service where they will write the check for you.
Oh, that's cool.
And charge your credit card. So that, then you can offset that liability and risk onto them.
It sounds like bill pay. When you bill pay through Bank of America, they don't get the check for like 2 weeks. So you're like, I'm going to bill pay it today. I got 2 weeks before you take it out of my account. This is great.
But the real question is, how many people actually still use checks? And it's true that check usage is declining, but Americans still wrote 3.4 billion checks last year. And that's down actually from 19 billion checks in,
1990.
32 years ago.
I'm about to say, when we didn't have the ability to pay online and stuff like that.
But ultimately, it still gives criminals plenty of opportunity for fraud. But, I guess old habits die hard, really. And now, after over 70 years, we see another old tradition canceled. After Oregon lawmakers on Wednesday voted to end the prohibition on self-serve gas that's been in place since 1951. House Bill 2426 would require gas stations to staff at least half of their open pumps for people who want assistance, but it would allow other pumps to be open for self-service. Stations are prohibited from charging different prices at self-serve and attended pumps. And the bill passed the Senate 16-9. While the bill had bipartisan support, each no vote came from a Democrat, while 4 Republicans and the Senate's lone independent party member did not vote. Now, out of curiosity, if they cut half the staff and they do keep the other half for those who request assistance, do you think that there will be no change and no charge, no extra charge for that service, but maybe a mandatory tip?
I don't think you can say mandatory and tip in the same sentence.
Do you think you would then feel obligated to tip?
Possibly, if you know that it's no longer a law and they're doing, but then you have the same ones going, well, if that's your job, why am I tipping you? They should pay you to do your job. I shouldn't be on the hook to pay you to do your job.
But then if people want to tip you and you're willing to accept the tip as the employee, but then cash is no longer in circulation,
you better have Cash
how
App
is
or
how is this
Venmo
going to work out? So it says that fuel companies have long pushed for the change, saying it's getting harder to staff fuel pumps. The Northwest Grocery Association argued earlier this year that the bill wouldn't eliminate jobs because half the pumps at most gas stations are already closed because of the lack of staffing. That's crazy that this law is forcing businesses to ultimately limit themselves on their revenue producing and profitability.
Yeah.
Some drivers too have clamored for the opportunity to skip the wait for an available attendant, even as others have just as forcefully argued that full service gas stations are a convenience that the state should preserve. But I'd be willing to guess what percentage of the population is saying that it should be preserved.
Probably the older population who grew up with it, or the older population who does not want the need to get out of their cars and do things.
Or just go buy a Tesla.
Tesla.
Unless they start making it so that they have to have an attendant to plug in the charger for your Tesla.
I will say, though, that it seems like a good compromise. Half still attendant and half you can self-service. Like, it seems like a good compromise. So everybody should be happy in the long run. It gives the business the ability to make more money since all the pumps can be open. And also it gives the drivers the choice of which way they want to go. The only downside of it is that there may be jobs cut for the attendants.
I would say that despite all the other reasons that businesses would not want to enter into Oregon, and in fact others are pulling out, Walmart,
Cracker Barrel. That's Portland, yeah.
Buc-ee's will probably never show up.
No.
Because if Buc-ee's had to staff, half their pumps would have...
Oh gosh, they have like 120 pumps. That would be awful.
So it says that the bill, which passed the House in March, now goes to Governor Tina Kotek to be signed into law. and it would take effect immediately once signed. But again, this is mainly for gas, because we waited only to find out that, oh, we could pump our own fuel because we're diesel.
Although we would have known because there was no sign anywhere, and nope, that's about it. There's
and it
no
was
sign.
hard to get anybody's attention.
There was like 2 attendants.
They were running around like
everything.
chickens with their heads cut off.
Yeah.
So the DOT in hazard and class 1 explosive is essentially diesel was not. And when you ask why is it illegal to pump gas in Oregon, the answer is that the rule in Oregon goes back to 1951 and has roots in concerns about fire safety and job creation. Among other things, state law currently states that pumping their own gas can subject drivers to a variety of dangers, including fumes, slick surfaces, and leaving children unattended.
So basically, I agree with the leaving children unattended thing. You would tell them about the.
Yeah, I mean,
DoorDash.
we saw a woman last night. You know, she's probably trying to make it, trying to make ends
It's
meet.
10 o'clock at night.
It's 10 o'clock at night, pitch black dark, and she leaves her vehicle with 2 kids inside. We're out walking the
In
dog,
car seats.
and leaves the kids inside. The windows were cracked.
Windows were cracked, doors were locked.
And then she just goes in, to deliver this food delivery, and for Uber Eats or whatever, DoorDash or whatever, and yeah.
I want to say it's good that she's doing what needs to be done in order to ensure that she has money to put food on the table and pay her bills and stuff. But as a mom, it also sucks that these children who are from what I could see, both under 4, are awake in the back of a car at 10 o'clock on, doesn't matter what night it is.
Yeah, I mean, this cost of living situation is a struggle.
Yeah.
It's insane. The legislation in Oregon would end the long run as one of 2 states that require attendants to pump gasoline, the other being New Jersey. Mm-hmm. Oregon has previously curtailed its full service requirements, and in 2015 legalized self-serve gas at night in some rural and coastal counties. Strange. Just at night. Remember when, they said C-19 was kind of like,
Yeah.
you don't have to wear a mask as long as you're sitting at a bar and drinking.
Yes.
Before 7, because
Yes.
after 7 it comes back up.
Yeah.
But in 2017 it expanded that rule to all rural counties, and the state fire marshal has lifted the self-serve ban every summer since 2020 during wildfires or heat waves.
I like how you can't say rural.
I can't say it, and I don't even know what YouTube's going to come up with for the closed caption. When you play music and YouTube doesn't know, it says foreign.
Foreign, or it just has music playing.
So I don't know what it's going to say when I say rural. It'll say foreign. This bill approved on Wednesday would also eliminate from state law language referring to coin-operated fuel pumps, perhaps in recognition of the fact that a $1 coin, the largest denomination in general circulation, would today buy 0.2 of a gallon of gas. And it would take more than 50 of those $1 coins to fill the average tank, which those $1 coins are probably actually worth more than $1.
Yeah.
But not worth. So, for instance, like if we were to actually use the gold coins, the Canadian maple leaf gold coins that we have, as face value, we would be losing out tremendously over what they're actually worth in their weight
As
gold.
for gold, yeah.
Now, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's evolution in business and money and politics and more to come. After plans of Oregon breaking away and their efforts and votes to deepen their urban-rural divide, this greater Idaho movement aims to redraw Idaho's map to include 14 conservative Oregon counties. But opponents say it's only worsening the political tensions. Remember that? Did I show you that map? Oregon was going to become part of Idaho. A grassroots movement to redraw Oregon's border is gaining traction. Conservative counties approved measures that would start the process of seceding from the blue state and joining Republican-dominated Idaho. So we need to go over that for you and for you.
I was about to say, because there's some farming and other issues going on with Idaho right now that I don't know that Oregon really wants to jump into.
Oh, are you covering that? Y'all better subscribe to SquirrelTribe. More on that in future videos. So subscribe, turn on your alerts, notifications, because YouTube's been shutting them off without people's consent. So let me ask you this. What's worse? Or actually, what would be the worst part about going food shopping and hitting the grocery store to stock up and prep our pantry? What's the worst part about it?
For us?
For you?
Carrying out up the stairs of the apartment.
Okay. Interesting. You did not say bomb threats.
Not something I feel is going to happen where we are. Doesn't mean it's not an option, but it doesn't feel like a thing.
You know, I don't think you can really rule out anything because it's the craziest things happen. And you brought to my attention a tornado.
Yes.
Was it a tsunami?
There was a small tsunami in Clearwater, a tornado near us.
And then we got bears coming out of the ocean.
Yep.
But then the football player drowned. And where did he drown? Pensacola?
No, he drowned literally like...
Oh, right down the street.
Yeah, right down the street.
So anything.
Yeah, anything is possible.
But bomb threats are demanding ransom payments, creating new headaches for retailers, including Walmart, Kroger, and Whole Foods. In Business Insider says that a spate of retailers have been hit by bomb threats in recent months. According to the Wall Street Journal's report, the threats are being made by people demanding ransoms in the form of money, Bitcoin, or gift cards.
Which is really stupid because you can track gift cards. You can track Bitcoin.
And retailers affected include Walmart, Kroger, and Whole Foods for starters. Some of America's biggest retailers have been hit by a string of bomb threats in recent months. As the Wall Street Journal reports, stores, airports, political organizations, and schools receiving threats are not unheard of, but the bomb threat calls to retailers have come with a new twist. Demands for money, Bitcoin, or gift cards. Walmart, Kroger's. It says Kroger's.
Yeah.
Walmart.
Because it's pluralizing them because it's more than all of them.
But it doesn't say Walmart's.
But it doesn't say Whole Foods. Well, because that's already plural.
Walmart's, Kroger's, and Whole Foods stores across the country are among those targeted with threats and ransom demands this year. A Whole Foods outlet just outside of Chicago received a call demanding $5,000 in Bitcoin and threatening to set off a pipe bomb in the store.
Well, the good news is that in Illinois, the police can help you, but don't be surprised when half of those police are not actual United States citizens.
So, what is the most dangerous part about Chicago? Is it the potential bomb threats and ransom attacks at these grocery stores?
Is it the violence in the streets, or is it the not knowing? I don't know. The police officers, like, I don't know.
Well, the cops, they just turn the other cheek. They're like, you voted for this, okay?
Yeah.
But and then no one gets thrown in jail. They're all released.
Yeah.
Or is it the air quality?
Oh yeah, the air quality right now is just absolutely horrific.
But a Kroger-owned store in New Mexico was also evacuated after an employee took a call demanding money be wired and threatening that a bomb would be detonated if she called the police. The retailers, along with local and federal law enforcement, are trying to determine if the threats are isolated incidents or part of a wider scheme. On the same day in May, two Mayor's locations in Wisconsin reportedly received similar threats hours apart. The second threat, made to a location in Grafton, Wisconsin, also demanded $5,000 of Apple gift cards.
So I remember when all this happened. I'm pretty sure it's like kids. They never said, but I think one of them that called in was trying to like mimic the other ones that happened.
And in all these incidents, no suspicious packages or explosive devices were found.
I'm pretty sure one of the Walmarts that had the bomb threat was here in Atlanta somewhere. I remember them shutting one down and pulling out the K9 units and stuff like that.
This is just another reason why you wouldn't catch me working there. But at the same time, is there anywhere safe anymore? Really?
I can't even tell you.
A public information officer in the Grafton Police Department told the Journal that attempts to obtain money or gift cards over the phone were usually scams, but nevertheless could not be ignored. Whole Foods recently told managers to go over bomb threat protocols with employees. Can you imagine now being trained as an employee to work somewhere and you have to go through all these different protocols and training as if you're about to be deployed to, like, I don't know, the Ukraine or Russia or, you know, Afghanistan or something? Like,
can you imagine sending your kids to elementary school and they have to practice hiding from active shooters?
I mean, can you imagine having to send your kid to elementary school with a
litter box in the bathroom?
With a metal plate, defensive plate in their backpack?
Yeah.
Other threats have also been made to retailers in recent months. A group of Target stores across several states were evacuated earlier this month after bomb threats were sent to local news outlets, and the threatening messages were tied to Target's handling of backlash to its Pride Month collection of products and clothing. So that's the new cancel. That's the new cancel. Mm-hmm. New cancel culture is we'll just call you and tell you that, you know, be careful. Rodney McMullen, the CEO of Kroger, told the outlet it took threats seriously and was working with police and the FBI. Walmart said it cooperated with law enforcement, and Whole Foods said it was guided by law enforcement officials. Walmart, Whole Foods, Mayor, and Kroger did not immediately respond to requests for comment from the Business Insider, but I guess it's time for us to really pack it up and just buy a homestead, get some land, move out to the prairie, and start planting fields, acres of corn. I love corn. Mm-hmm. And raise some chickens. And I guess just don't answer the phone and dodge those pesky bomb threat phone calls and extended car warranty expiration offers. You never know which one it's going to be.
Exactly.
But we do appreciate you guys. If you made it this far in the video, please go ahead, hit that like button, smash that like button. Make sure it's blue or white, whatever color.
Blue?
Subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure your alerts and notifications are turned on, even if you're already a subscriber, because YouTube has been turning them off without viewers' consent. As well as stay tuned, because we have so much more to bring you guys. And there are links in the description below for more information and other channels and other videos if you guys are interested. That's it for SquirrelTribe and Kevin, the podcast today. And we will see you guys real soon. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.